My name's Abigail.
Hi, I'm Darla.
Darla. Right. Darla, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your dog?
Yes, I'm Darla Edwards. I've lived around it most of my life. Our dog Kahlua was killed October 31st of 2023. He was a standard poodle, a family dog, very much so. When I first got him, I was in a lot of pain, depression. One of our children had died the year before, and I just could not come out of my depression because it was really hard. It's hard to lose a child. He was 9 years old, and so it's very hard to lose a child of any age, but a 9-year-old is really hard. So Kahlua was very instinctive. He knew when I was sad. He knew when I just had a day that was hard to cope. He would just lay on me and put his paws around me. He became my emotional support dog, and he really meant a lot to me. He was like a child to me. I mean, a lot of people might not understand that, but some will. But he was a family member. He went everywhere with us. He was just a super good dog. He helped all our kids through losing their brother and me through losing my son. The day that he got out, this is his daughter laying by my feet. Her name is Bella. She's my son's dog. She's a golden doodle, and she's very high energy. We were doing a favor for a fellow foster parent. We've been foster parents for almost 30 years. And we were doing a favor for someone, and she came over about 5, and her child had many machines and things that made his daily living possible. And so we were carrying in all the equipment, and they got out. They heard kids because it was Halloween time. So they were just running around with kids, and we were carrying stuff in, and I called them back, and they just got busy like dogs do and ran down 3rd Street West. We live on 3rd Street West as well. We carried in all the equipment and got everything settled for the little guy. And then I got in my car and started looking for him, and didn't see them. So I got nervous, and I came home, and I called everyone I knew and family, friends, that kind of thing. And so people were looking for him. And a couple hours later, Bella came home, limping and in shock. And this happened between 5:30 and 6 is when they got out. And so we assessed her and looked all over, and but Kahlua didn't come back. So that panicked me because they were so close. And she's 7 and Kahlua was 9.5. And that was his daughter, and they were very close. And so we started panicking, but we had to call the vet because we knew that something wasn't right with her. So we called Mary Rose, and she came in all the way from her place. And we brought Bella in, and she had it's not just a BB gun or it's the high pellet ones, like a 22 bird shot. And she still has one lodged in her shoulder. And, but she was all right. She was just in shock. And then we found out why she was in such shock. Because she never would leave her dad's side. You know, we've taken them camping multiple times together, and they never leave each other's side. So we were extremely fearful. So we just started looking. We were driving around, up and down and up and down. And finally someone called us and said, because I posted it everywhere and on all the roundup pages. And someone called me and said, your dog is in the alley behind 3rd Street West on the 700 block. And he was just laying there, and he was in shock. He was awake at that point. So I had hope. I thought, well, maybe it's like Bella. But she only had one of the pellets. I do have all the x-rays and that. So we picked Kahlua up. He wasn't able to stand up. And so we picked him up and wrapped him in a blanket. The gal who found him was crying too. She was a teenage girl. I'm very grateful that she saw him. The blood trail was led from between the alleys and around 6th and 7th Street West and on the 9th Avenue. And so there was blood all around there. So we picked him up, and I held him. By this point, it was pretty late. Just held him and thought, well, maybe he's just cold, because I didn't see a whole lot of blood, but he was really cold. So I wrapped him up and just held him and rocked him. And then after we realized there was something horribly wrong, we called the vet and took him down there in Lavon Venice. And they did x-rays, multiple x-rays, and there was over 2 dozen bullets in him, all up and down his spine and in his lungs.
Oh.
The part that bothers me the most is that he probably came right to the person who did this to him. He was so personable and so friendly that he probably went right up to the person and let that person, for evilness, shoot him. He over 2 dozen, and they were all meant to paralyze him and kill him. They were in his spine and in his lungs. So he, the vet told us there's no way that he would make it through it. We asked if there was anything surgically we would have paid any price. She said no, there was no hope. And so we made the decision to let him go. And my husband and I and Lavon, we all three just held him while he died. And yeah, it was extremely difficult.
So sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that story. I hope just to share it with the community and get the word out.
Me too. I whoever did this had the first step in killing people is hurting animals this way. Anyone who's capable of shooting an animal 2 dozen times for fun or for whatever reason they did it, it certainly wasn't because he was vicious or attacking them or a child or another animal for that matter. We have 4 cats and we have other dogs. He was extremely good with our kids and with our animals. We took him to Red Lodge with us multiple times, and he went right into restaurants. My last really good memory. We had just been to Red Lodge a couple weekends before, and we took him into the Red Lodge Pizza Company, get his harness on, but he just sat there. He was very prim and proper, like poodles are sometimes. And he just sat beside me at the table. And the waiter came up and took our order, and he said, "And will there be anything for you, sir?" I looked at him, and I said, "Yes, can you bring him just a plain chicken breast?" And he goes, "Well, I will." And then my son was sitting there, and he goes, "Aren't you going to ask how much that is, Mom?" And I said, "Okay, how much is it?" And he goes, "I don't know, I'll go check." I said, "Well, I don't care, I'm going to get it anyway." So he comes back, and he goes, "It was $6. My son said, "I don't think you should get that. That's $6. Good grief, Mom." And Khalil looked at him, and looked at the waiter, and looked at me, and then he turned his face away from my son. Like he knew exactly what he said. And we all were laughing, including the waiter. And I said, "Just bring it to him." So he brought it on a little silver platter, and the waiter did. And he brought it all cut up, and he gave it to him. And he goes, "Here you are, sir." And put it down, and he ate it. And then he just looked at my son like, "Ha ha, I got my chicken." But yeah, it was pretty funny. He literally went everywhere with us, and people responded to him almost always. Sometimes it took a long time to get down the sidewalks because people would stop and pet him, and he would interact with people. So I know that whoever did this took away that joy from us and away from our kids.
So did you file a police report on it?
Yes, the police actually came to the vet's office and talked to Mary Rose, looked at the x-rays, and they saw how brutal it was. Mary Rose also did the equivalent of an autopsy. I can't remember the correct name for that, but she did an autopsy. She took all of the bullets out and saved them for evidence. So yeah, there was a police report. If anyone has any information about this, they can either contact me or they can contact the sheriff. I have talked to Sheriff Lesnick. There's been no follow-up. He did call me one time about a week later, and but other than that, there hasn't been any follow-up. We had one lead. We followed that lead, and that person said that they were in their house the whole evening and denied having anything to do with it. We really want to know who did this, and we want justice for our baby. He meant a lot to a lot of people. We do foster care, and some of our kids that come here have a lot of trauma and have been through a lot. And our little girl that we have now had a lot of trauma in her early life, and when he died, it was very difficult for her. It just, it caused her to have a lot of nightmares and a lot of stress because of the loss. She lost so much in her life, and it was really difficult for her. And even our other, our we have a new standard, and Levon gifted him to us, and it's very hard for her to even pet him because she's afraid that that loss will be there. And with foster children, they have a lot of loss, and animals are a very good way for them to connect and share grief.
Yeah.
Animals are very intuitive to that, and it's when we lost him so suddenly, it was very hard because he wasn't sick, he wasn't old, according to standard poodle age. He was 9.5. He had a lot of good years left, and so that's hard when you lose another loss on top of that. And so with adults, we can talk about our feelings and kind of get through things, but for a child it's hard, especially one that's already been through trauma. We've done foster care for a long time, and we love it. We love helping kids, and I think animals are a big part of that. They definitely teach them empathy and teach them how to care about something, how to focus on something besides grief or the things that they've been through. So whoops. Hi, Zaid. And our children that we've adopted, they have autism, a lot of them. They have developmental delays. So they didn't understand what happened. They were like, why would someone do that? Why would somebody hurt Kahlua? They didn't understand. I don't understand. I'm an adult, and I can't wrap my head around it. But it's really hard for a child with developmental delay, and to explain to them what happened was heart-wrenching, and they want to know who did it, and they want to explain to that person how much they loved their dog, So.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us about this awful situation, and I'm so sorry about your loss.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.